Architectural Builder Supply is pleased to present you with this recording of the technical question that is listed in the title of this video.
This call may be monitored and recorded for quality assurance.
What is it, PK1, PK2? So that's going to be another task, me finding cross-milled blanks that are PK1, PK2. So that's my next, hurdle that I'm going to have to try and tackle.
So someone used multi-section key blanks?
Yeah.
That's awful.
It's awful. I mean, for someone like myself to, try and inherit the system, and of course they're not giving the bidding, so, I have to try and get cores out and then, dump them, mic the top pin, get the core key, and then thinking I have the control key, and I didn't realize it's only working half the friggin' locks, then realizing it's a cross-mill blank. So it's been quite a nightmare. And I got to tell you, and someone like you would probably appreciate it, when I start micing all of them and trying to get, because I have 2 of the 3 keys, all right, so I'm trying to come up with a system in the bidding. He was putting the driver pins upside down. The stack was 25. The stack was 26. I have never in 30 years seen someone do an IC core that was over 23 with an A2 system. And not realizing it will work, but this guy must have did it himself with a piece of paper and a pen. And basically what that does is it just puts too much tension on the spring, and it would make the key hard to turn, which most of these keys, when you put them in the lock, they're hard to turn. And, the guys that work, maybe it's got a little bit. I'm like, no, it doesn't make sense that it's even doing this. And it's because he stacked them over 23. He was doing 25, 26, and that's sticking at the 23. So,
yeah, the magic number is 23 when it's A2. And someone doing that is either ought not be pinning small format, or they're doing it intentionally to confound the guy that comes after them, like you. And
you know what? I would think that too, except when I took the pins out, the driver pins, some of them were upside down, and the point was sticking up. So I just think it's a lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
I don't think the guy would do that and make it harder for himself. I just think it was a knowledge, honestly.
Well, the problem is you're right, because as a driver pin, he's clearly using bottom pins because the drivers are just long master pins. So if there's a chisel point anywhere, if there's a point on a pin, he's using bottom pins upside down, and that's awful. Now, what's even more insidious is using multi-section, because Verizon Store A could have the same bidding on door 101, and Verizon Store B got the same bidding on door 101, and they're separating them by different millings. But if you use the multi-section,
I'm not sure what his goal was to do that, unless he wanted to maybe separate certain buildings with a control key and make it. I just don't understand why. Maybe he gave one person one control key, gave another person another control key, and knowing himself, he only had to use one key. He purposely had to do it. His intention, and trying to figure out, but then it goes back to his lack of knowledge because of the way he pinned them.
A better way to have done that would be to simply master at the control line, because it's very common to have Best Buy does this. They've got their Best Buy stores, and in one state, the head for that state's going to have one control that will pass all the cores in the entire facility, but each Best Buy store has its own control key, and all you're doing is mastering at the control line. That would have been a better way to do that, rather than use multi-section blanks. It's risky business, because you got the potential for incidental keys skyrockets when you use a multi-section blank. Anyway.
Well, this is just one section of this contract. We have all of New York City, we have upstate New York, and Long Island. So there's hundreds of buildings. And unfortunately, over the last 30 or so years, believe it or not, there's been so many different locksmiths. When I go into these buildings that literally have some buildings in Manhattan that are 40 stories, have thousands of doors. And as I go, I've never seen so many simplex locks, which is great because we're experts at that. But I would say more than half don't even have any cores in them. They don't even put cores. So what they'll do is, over the years, guys would come, they would drill out the core, open it up, somehow change, whatever they have to do, not put a core in. And if they do put a core in, they don't do what I do and figure out what the control key is. They just put a core in, master it to their master key, and don't even have a control key. So we have to go, and believe it or not, I've had a lot of success with Peterson picks. He's got these IC core. I'm not sure if you sell them, but you may want to throw that on your website. They have IC Core A2 picks that the tension wrenches have spikes on them, and the sleeve that turns for I guess the control bar or the bar that locks it in place. That's the only thing that will turn. So you can pick.
Oh,
that.
wow.
Yes, and they're all master keys, so they're not very hard to pick. You'll pick it to the control line, the shear line for the bar, the bar, the control bar, whatever that's called, and I pull them out, and then within 5 or 10 minutes we have a control key. But now I have dozens of control keys, and we try and keep it as organized as we can, but it's a nightmare. So eventually what we do is I'm just using a control across the board. When they do their master key, we put in a system. It's 491461. That's our control key for Manhattan, and we're keeping that as a control key, and we're just putting new cores in. So as we're going on the last 6 months or so, this really was the hardest with the peaks. It's something I've never done before. I wouldn't say I'm an expert now, but I got a pretty good handle on what we have to do to succeed out there in Long Island.
Yeah.
It's good to speak to someone that's knowledgeable enough that when I ask them questions, you'd be very surprised that many people in our industry even know about IC cores, never mind like specialty like peaks. But
yeah,
I have a source now down south.
Yeah,
just so you know, it's freezing up here.
Well, I was just up in New York 2 weeks ago.
It was beautiful 2 weeks ago. Now today was the first day it's frosted, so we had to put the frost on the cars.
Yeah, I was there being a tourist, and I knew if I waited till the end of the month, it wouldn't be as pleasant. So it's almost like all these lock manufacturers, whether it be Medico or it be Dorma or whomever, it's like they're keeping it secret. They're not keeping it secret in as much as they just don't publish the data. The best way to get access to this stuff is no one has time. But if you were a part of a LOA and you went to maybe the annual convention or took a class, and I have and I do, but the reason I do, other than the knowledge, is because I have the email of the guy who ran key management at Schlage for 20 years. I emailed him 2 days ago on a question. I know the guy who runs cylinders for Kaba Ilko. So if I got a question on a key, you know what I mean? This networking is insane.
Yeah.
Jerome Andrews, who I was just sitting in with the class, who wrote Fundamentals of Master Keying, he brought peaks to Best. He made them aware of the technology. So it's crazy. I swear to God, it's crazy the people that you can get access to. So when you're out there in a city, in a place like Manhattan, where there's millions of cylinders, man, you don't have 10 lifetimes you wouldn't learn it all. But when you know the guy whose shoulder you can tap, oh my God. Anyway, so I don't work for a LOA, but everything I've learned is either through their classes or the people that are there. So anyway,
I wouldn't be saying I'm ashamed. I'm not ashamed to say it, but I mean, I've always been, members of a LOA, but I haven't in like 2 years. And I just spoke to a girl. I took a class for fire safety for the fire doors. And
Tom Coxwell.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm certified for that, so we can do our inspections because we have Chase also. I just haven't submitted my dues. And you know what? It's a shame because that's what keeps everybody going is the dues, the membership. So as this conversation, I think when I go home tonight, I'll just email them our payment and we'll have everybody a lower member. Just real quick, not talking bad about other people in the industry, but the Best, I guess you call him the key master, my salesperson for Best. Hold on, I'm in a bad area here. Hold on 1 second. So my salesman for Best, good guy. He directed me towards his key master for Best. And when I picked his brain a little bit about the peaks, I have to say, and unfortunately, maybe he's new. He just really didn't have the answers. And my problem was cutting these keys. If you're familiar with Accredited is a distributor up here in...
Junior. Yeah, he's my guy.
Yes.
I got a guy over there by the name of Junior. He helps me out, yeah.
So they have a guy there. His name is Dave. He's their key master. Mr. Frank, I'm telling you right now that you're going to have a real difficult time for the first cut. If he thought it was past 5, but I think it's past 6. If you go something deeper than a 6 for the first, well, it's not the first, actually the last closest to the bow, it will actually cut away that dimple for that pin, that first pin. So he says you have to be careful about the cutter, that it's angled so it will not cut into that dimple. And he says even in Best, they have their machines and then they have ITL machines that cut. They're set up just for the first cut. So if they're doing a system that has very deep cuts, like a number 9, they'll actually take the key out of the machine. They'll use for the first 6 cuts, and then the 7th cut they'll put it on a different machine. Now, this is the guy that doesn't work for best, but cuts thousands of keys. And to the effect that I showed him keys that I have, and he looked at them, and he was able to read the cuts, just by looking at them. And he looked at the milling. He's the one that told me about the cross milling for the PK1 and PK2. He goes, oh, no, Frank, this is a cross milled just by looking at it. So, when you're calling certain people and certain manufacturers, you'll get lucky. Like you're saying, the guy that brought it to Best, he's a genius, that guy. But I think the guy that's there now that's just doing their classes, believe it or not, he teaches the courses for Best. He didn't know anything about cutting the keys. So he's a book guy.
I don't own I don't own an ITL. I just, I've got a Fromm, and I've got obviously all the other machines. It's the one that I don't own because I just haven't, had a need for it yet. But yes, I would probably try the Fromm to do that last cut. But yeah, you got to be careful of obliterating that. And, everybody's got special rules when it comes to their technology.
So far what we've come across, the deepest cut has been a 4.
Oh.
So I'm hoping that this guy didn't go down any further than that. And if he did, we'll just have to, I guess, invest in an ITL machine. But the cutter that you're giving me, you probably don't know offhand, but I'm wondering what the angle of the cutter is, if it has the ability to go deeper.
I don't. 87 is my guess. Let me. I can.
It's the only one that you have, so I have to get it. I mean, we have it. I just wanted to see if I have to go to Plan B and cut that deeper cut. I mean, instead of spending $3,500 on an ITL machine, I'm wondering if this would actually do it.
Yeah, I talked to ITL. I think those machines were more than that. I talked to them about 6 months ago.
Well, you can't get any. You can't get an ITL. You can't get it. I said, Charlie from Accredited wanted to buy, I think, 15, and he's like, I can't fill that order. There's no way I can fill the order.
Yeah. 90 degree is what the CW90MC is.
Well, there you go. So 90 degrees, I think that's good then, if it's 90 degrees. All right, perfect then. All right, good. Listen, Rich, thank you very, very much for your help, and I definitely will be in touch. We have you now, and I see you have a lot of do you deal with Best? We just put we're doing a big building up in Yonkers, and we needed 62 Best electronic mortise locks. So do you guys deal with Best as well?
Yeah, sure, of course. Yeah, I mean, I mostly sell, I'm doing cylinders and cores mostly with them. I sell combinators about once every other month, or, about once a year I'll sell a capping press. But their entire lock line we deal with. We've got Newport News. You might know them. They do a thing for the Navy called building nuclear submarines. That's all Best that goes into those things. And then I've got, just a lot of retail places, your typical Michaels and TJ Maxx's and, guys who do that work and they service the stuff, like what you're doing. They're not doing locksmithing work like you are, but,
All right,
they're
so
calling guys like you.
We'll have another resource, and our next bid, I'll give you a call, and maybe we could put something together.
Thank you very much, Frank. I appreciate it.
Just, do you have any idea, is this going to take a long time? Do you think this is something that was a stock item, or did they have to,
HPC is generally 2 weeks to get an unusual card out the door.
Okay, so figure about 2 to 3 weeks then.
That's right. Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Architectural Builders Supply hopes you have enjoyed this program. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.